You're not getting a single dollar, Marcus. My sister Victoria's voice dripped with satisfaction as she slid the trust documents across the mahogany table. I watched her French manicured nails tap against the papers like she was conducting a symphony of my humiliation. The board voted unanimously. You lack the financial acumen to manage family assets responsibly. I sat there in the S office, my worn jacket suddenly feeling heavier. Outside the window, Seattle rain hammered against the glass. Victoria adjusted her Chanel suit and smiled that smile I'd seen 1,000 times growing up. The smile that said she'd won again. Dad built this trust for the family, I said quietly. She laughed. Actually laughed. Dad built this for people who could appreciate it. You dropped out of college to play video games in your apartment. You work in tech support, Marcus. Tech support, while I run a portfolio worth millions. The trust needs competent stewards, not charity cases. Her lawyer, a sharp-eyed woman named Patricia Helms, cleared her throat. The trust bylaws give the primary beneficiary discretion over distribution. Your sister qualifies. You currently do not meet the minimum net worth requirements. I looked at the number. $500,000. I had $12,000 in my savings account. I am Marcus Chen Rodriguez, 32 years old, and until that moment in the lawyer's office, I had been nobody important. My father, Diego Rodriguez, had built a shipping logistics empire in the 1980s, immigrating from Mexico with nothing but ambition and a high school education. He died 3 years ago, leaving behind a trust worth $20 million. Victoria was 4 years older than me, Harvard Business School, married to a venture capitalist, living in a penthouse in downtown Seattle. She'd always been the golden child. Perfect grades, perfect career, perfect everything. I was the screw-up who dropped out of the University of Washington during my junior year to work on a startup that failed within 6 months. For the past 8 years, I'd worked at Tech Central, a call center handling customer service for various tech companies. I made $42,000 a year. I lived in a studio apartment in Capitol Hill. I drove a 15-year-old Honda Civic with a cracked windshield. Victoria had spent our entire lives reminding me of my failures. Family dinners became performance reviews where she critiqued my choices. She'd introduce me to her friends as my brother who's still figuring things out. Now she'd cut me out of our father's legacy completely. I drove home in silence, the windshield wipers beating a rhythm against the rain. My apartment was cold when I unlocked the door. I sat at my desk and stared at my computer screen. The blue light illuminated my face in the darkness. I didn't cry. I didn't punch walls. I did what I'd always done when the world crushed me. I opened my laptop and started working. See, Victoria didn't know everything about me. She knew I dropped out of college. She knew I worked in tech support. What she didn't know was why I dropped out or what I'd been doing in my spare time for the past 8 years. I'd left university to join a startup building algorithmic trading software. We'd failed because my partners got greedy and tried to scale too fast. But I kept the code. I kept learning. Every night after my tech support shift, I'd come home and refine the algorithms. Test them. Improve them. I turned $12,000 into $58,000 over 3 years using my trading bot. Slow growth, careful growth, the kind that didn't attract attention. I'd been patient because I had a day job. I didn't need to take risks. But now I had a deadline. I needed $500,000 to qualify for the trust. The email arrived at 2 a.m. I was still awake, running simulations on my trading algorithms, when my phone buzzed. The sender was someone I hadn't heard from in 9 years, Brian Ortega. Marcus, heard you might be looking for capital. Call me. Brian had been my partner in the failed startup. He'd gone on to work at one of the big hedge funds in New York. We parted on decent terms, but we hadn't spoken since the company dissolved. I called him immediately despite the hour. He answered on the first ring. Marcus Chen Rodriguez, he said. I heard through the grapevine that your sister locked you out of the family trust. Seattle tech community is smaller than you think. News travels fast, I replied. Your father's trust was big news when he died. People pay attention to $20 million. Look, I remember your algorithms. They were brilliant. You were always the smartest guy in the room. You just had terrible business partners. He paused. Me included. I waited. I work for Blackstone Capital now. We have a discretionary fund for promising traders. If you can prove your system works, I can get you seed money. But you need to show me results first. I spent the next 72 hours in a fog of code and coffee. I took sick days from Tech Central, something I'd never done before. My supervisor sounded concerned. I told her I had food poisoning. I set up a demonstration account with $10,000 of my own savings, a huge risk. If I lost it, I'd be destroying a year of careful growth. But I needed to prove the system worked under pressure. Brian wanted to see real-time trades, not backtesting simulations. He wanted to watch the bot make decisions in live market conditions. The algorithm I'd built was designed to identify microsecond price discrepancies across different exchanges. It wasn't flashy. It made tiny profits on thousands of trades. But those tiny profits compounded. The key was velocity and accuracy. I streamed my screen to Brian's office in New York. He watched in silence as the bot executed 273 trades in 6 hours. The account grew from $10,000 to $10,743. 7.4% in 6 hours, Brian said quietly. If you can maintain even half that consistency, you'll be a millionaire in 3 years. I need it in 3 months, I told him. Brian got me a meeting with the investment committee at Blackstone Capital. I flew to New York on a budget airline, wearing my only suit, a charcoal gray number I'd bought for my father's funeral. The jacket was slightly too big in the shoulders. The committee room was all glass and steel, overlooking Manhattan from the 47th floor. 6 people sat around the table, each one looking like they'd been born in boardrooms. I was the youngest person there by at least 15 years. I gave them the pitch I'd been rehearsing for a week. I explained the algorithm's logic, the risk management protocols, the backtesting results. I showed them the live demonstration I'd run for Brian. The managing partner, a woman named Helena Frost with silver hair and eyes like a hawk, leaned forward. "Why should we give money to someone who works in tech support?" she asked. Not cruel, just direct. Because I understand both the technology and the human behavior behind it, I replied. I spend 8 hours a day helping people solve problems they created by not reading instructions. I understand irrationality. I've built that understanding into the algorithm. She smiled slightly. How much are you asking for? $250,000. They gave me $300,000 with one condition. I had to quit my job and trade full-time. No distractions, no safety net. If I lost their money, I'd be personally liable for a percentage of the losses. I called Tech Central and resigned. My supervisor was shocked. She offered me a raise, a promotion, anything to stay. I thanked her and hung up. Victoria called me that same evening. She'd somehow heard I'd quit my job. The Seattle tech community really was a small world. Marcus, what are you doing? She sounded genuinely concerned, which was worse than her usual contempt. You're throwing away a stable career. For what? Some get-rich-quick scheme. I'm trading, I said simply. You're going to lose everything. You don't have the discipline for finance. You never finished anything you started. She sighed. Look, if you need money, I can help. I can get you an entry-level position at my firm. But you have to stop this nonsense. I'm good, Victoria. But thanks. Don't come crying to me when you're bankrupt. I hung up. The first month was brutal. The algorithm worked, but the pressure nearly destroyed me. I'd wake up at 4 a.m. when the Asian markets opened. I'd monitor trades until the European markets closed. Then I'd analyze performance, adjust parameters, and sleep for maybe 4 hours before starting again. I lost weight. I stopped seeing friends. My apartment became a war room of monitors and charts and coffee cups. But the account grew. 300,000 became 347,000. Then 392,000. The gains were consistent, steady, exactly what I predicted. Brian called weekly to check in. Helena Frost called once to ask a technical question about one particularly volatile trading day. I explained the algorithm's response. She said impressive and hung up. I wasn't just trading. I was studying the market structure itself. I started noticing patterns in how the big institutional investors moved money. I saw the footprints they left in the order books. And I noticed something interesting. A significant amount of capital flow came from one source, Pacific Northwest Holdings, a private investment firm based in Seattle. Pacific Northwest Holdings was the parent company that managed several private trusts, including my family's trust. I'd never paid attention to how the trust actually made money. I'd assumed it was boring stocks and bonds, the kind of thing wealthy people did automatically. But as I dug deeper, I discovered something fascinating. Pacific Northwest Holdings was heavily invested in a specific sector, commercial shipping logistics. The same industry my father had built his fortune in. They owned minority stakes in dozens of small and medium-sized shipping companies up and down the West Coast. They provided capital, took a percentage of profits, and reinvested the returns. The fund manager was a guy named Preston Vale, 63 years old, former Navy logistics officer who'd gone into private finance. He'd built Pacific Northwest Holdings over 30 years into a powerhouse managing over $2 billion. And his fund was the engine that paid out the distributions to trusts like ours. Victoria's annual distribution was around $800,000. That money came from Preston Vale's investment decisions. I looked at the fund's performance over the past 5 years. It was good, but not great. 7% average annual return, which was respectable but nothing spectacular. I thought I could do better. By month 2, my trading account had grown to $460,000. I was close to the magic number, the $500,000 threshold that would force Victoria to acknowledge my existence in the trust. But something had shifted in me. I didn't just want a seat at the table anymore. I wanted to own the table. I called Brian. "I need to know if you can scale this," I said. "If I had $10 million to deploy, could your algorithm handle it?" He was quiet for a moment. "That's a different game, Marcus. At that size, you're moving markets, not riding them. You need different infrastructure. But theoretically, yes. You'd need to modify the execution logic, spread orders across more venues, implement more sophisticated risk controls. But the core strategy would work." I thanked him and hung up. I opened a new document and started writing. Not code this time, but a business plan. A proposal for a new kind of investment fund that combined algorithmic trading with traditional shipping logistics investments. I was going to pitch Pacific Northwest Holdings on letting me manage a portion of their assets. Getting a meeting with Preston Vale took every connection I'd built. Brian made calls to his contacts. Helena Frost, impressed by my trading performance, made an introduction through her network. I leveraged every relationship I'd formed during my brief startup days. Finally, I got 15 minutes on Preston's calendar. The meeting was at Pacific Northwest Holdings headquarters, a modest building in downtown Seattle that looked more like an accounting firm than a financial powerhouse. Preston's office was surprisingly humble. Navy memorabilia on the walls, a simple wooden desk, photos of cargo ships. He was shorter than I expected, with silver hair and hands that looked like they'd spent time doing real work. "You're Diego Rodriguez's son," he said, shaking my hand. "I knew your father. Good man. Built his company the right way, slowly and carefully." "Thank you, sir. I heard you've been making some noise in the trading world." Helena Frost called me personally. That woman doesn't call people about junior traders unless something interesting is happening. He gestured to a chair. "You've got 12 minutes. Tell me why I should care." I laid out my proposal. Pacific Northwest Holdings was getting 7% returns by investing passively in shipping companies. I could get them 12% by actively trading the volatility in shipping futures markets, while still maintaining their traditional investments as a stability base. I showed him my backtesting data, my live trading results, and my risk management protocols. Preston listened without interrupting. When I finished, he leaned back in his chair. "You want me to give you how much?" $5 million to start. If I can demonstrate 15% returns over 6 months, you increase my allocation to $20 million. He laughed, not mockingly, but with genuine amusement. "You've got confidence. I respect that. But you're asking me to bet a significant portion of my fund on someone who was working tech support 3 months ago." "I'm asking you to bet on results, not resume," I replied. "I've turned $300,000 into $470,000 in 8 weeks. That's a 57% return. Annualized, that's over 300%. That's also unsustainable, and you know it," Preston countered. "Markets don't let you win like that forever. Which is why I'm proposing a hybrid strategy. The algorithmic trading provides upside. The shipping investments provide stability. Together, They're better than either alone. Preston didn't say yes immediately. He said he'd think about it and discuss it with his board. I walked out of his office knowing I'd done everything I could. 2 weeks later, my trading account hit $503,000. I'd crossed the threshold. I was technically eligible for trust distributions now. I called Patricia Helms, the lawyer from Victoria's firm. "I'm requesting a formal review of my eligibility status," I said. She was professional but cool. "I'll submit the paperwork. The board meets quarterly. The next meeting is in 6 weeks. I'll be there." Victoria called me within an hour. "Are you serious?" she demanded. "You actually think you can qualify? You made some money day trading, and now you're a financial genius." "I met the requirements," I said calmly. "The requirements are just the start, Marcus. The board evaluates your overall financial competence, your business experience, your stability. You've been trading for 2 months. 2 months. I've been managing investments for 12 years. Then the board will decide. You're embarrassing yourself." I hung up before she could continue. Preston Vale called me 3 days before the trust board meeting. His voice was formal, carefully neutral. "Marcus, I'm calling to inform you that Pacific Northwest Holdings will be allocating $5 million to your proposed trading strategy. The contract is being drawn up by our legal team." I sat down slowly, my legs suddenly weak. "However," Preston continued, "there are conditions. You'll be monitored daily. If you lose more than 8% of the allocated capital at any point, we pull the funds immediately. If you achieve 15% returns in 6 months, we'll discuss expansion. But this is a probationary arrangement. Do you understand?" "I understand. Thank you, sir." "Don't thank me yet. $5 million is a lot of weight to carry. Your father carried weight like that his whole life. Let's see if you inherited his shoulders." The call ended. I had $5 million to manage. I had 6 weeks to prove myself to the trust board. And I had a sister who thought I was about to fail spectacularly. The trust board meeting was held at Patricia Helms's law firm, in the same conference room where Victoria had cut me out months earlier. I arrived 15 minutes early, wearing a new suit I bought specifically for this occasion. Charcoal gray, properly fitted this time. Victoria was already there, sitting at the head of the table like she owned it. She wore a navy power suit and pearl earrings. She didn't look at me when I entered. The board consisted of Patricia, a retired judge named Franklin Moore, and an accountant named Dorothy Kim. They were trustees appointed by my father to oversee the trust management. Patricia called the meeting to order. "We're here to review Marcus Rodriguez's eligibility for trust distributions. Marcus has submitted financial statements showing net assets exceeding $500,000. She looked at me over her reading glasses. "Can you verify these statements?" I handed her certified bank statements, trading account summaries, and a letter from Blackstone Capital confirming my assets. Everything was documented and notarized. Dorothy Kim reviewed the papers carefully. These appeared to be in order. The minimum threshold is met. Victoria's jaw tightened. "Meeting the minimum isn't the same as demonstrating competence," Victoria said, her voice sharp. "The trust bylaws give this board discretion to evaluate whether a beneficiary can responsibly manage distributions. My brother made some money gambling in the stock market. That's not financial competence. That's luck." Franklin Moore, the retired judge, raised an eyebrow. "Victoria, I understand your concerns, but luck doesn't typically produce 57% returns in 8 weeks. It does if you take insane risks," Victoria shot back. "He could lose everything tomorrow. He's been trading for 2 months. I've spent 12 years building a legitimate career in finance." Patricia looked at me. "Marcus, can you address your sister's concerns about risk management?" I opened my laptop and connected it to the conference room screen. I pulled up my trading dashboard, showing every trade I'd made over the past 2 months. "Every trade is governed by strict risk parameters," I explained. "Maximum loss per trade is 0.5% of capital. Maximum daily loss is 2%. If either threshold is breached, the system stops trading automatically." I clicked through the data. My largest losing day was 1.3%. My largest winning day was 3.7%. Additionally, I continued, I've been offered an allocation from Pacific Northwest Holdings to manage $5 million using the same strategy. Preston Vale doesn't invest in luck. The room went silent. Victoria's face went pale. Preston Vale? Dorothy Kim asked. The Preston Vale who manages this trust's underlying assets. Yes, ma'am. Patricia leaned forward. You're managing money for the same fund that pays out our distributions. As of last week, yes. Victoria found her voice. This is clearly a conflict of interest. He's manipulating his relationship with Preston to influence this board. Franklin Moore shook his head. That's not how Preston Vale operates, Victoria. If anything, it's an endorsement. The man's been managing money longer than you've been alive. The board voted. It wasn't unanimous, but it was clear. 2 in favor of granting me full beneficiary status, 1 abstention from Patricia, who cited potential conflicts. Victoria wasn't allowed to vote as a beneficiary rather than a trustee. I was in. My first annual distribution would be approximately $200,000, paid quarterly starting next month. Victoria gathered her papers and walked out without looking at me. The first month managing Preston's $5 million was harder than anything I'd done before. The pressure was immense. Every morning I'd wake up wondering if today would be the day I lost it all. But the algorithm held. $5 million became $5,300,000. Then $5,600,000. The returns were smaller percentage-wise than my personal trading, but the absolute numbers were staggering. I was making more in a week than I'd made in a year at Tech Central. Preston called monthly for updates. His questions were sharp and specific. He wanted to understand not just what I was doing, but why. I realized he was testing me, seeing if I truly understood the markets, or if I just gotten lucky. You're doing well, he told me after month 3. Better than I expected, honestly. But you're thinking too small. What do you mean? You're trading volatility. That's fine, that's profitable. But you're not thinking about the underlying structure. The shipping companies we invest in, they're vulnerable. Outdated management, inefficient operations, old technology. Someone with your skills could fix them. I hadn't considered that angle. You want me to do operational consulting? I want you to think bigger than trading, Marcus. I started researching the shipping companies in Pacific Northwest Holdings' portfolio. Preston was right. Most of them were family-owned businesses, second or third generation operations that were profitable but stagnant. They used paper-based logistics systems. Their route optimization was done manually. They were leaving money on the table because they didn't understand modern technology. I drafted a proposal for a new division of Pacific Northwest Holdings focused on operational improvement. We'd invest in companies, implement modern logistics software, optimize their routes using algorithms similar to my trading bot, and increase their profitability. Preston loved it. This is what your father would have done, he told me. Diego understood that shipping wasn't about boats. It was about information. You've got his mind. He allocated $2 million for the new division. I hired a small team, a former shipping company CFO, a logistics software engineer, and a business analyst. We called ourselves Velocity Maritime Solutions. Our first client was a mid-sized freight company in Tacoma that was barely breaking even. Within 4 months, we'd cut their operating costs by 18% and increased their delivery efficiency by 23%. Their profit margin tripled. Word spread fast in the tight-knit shipping community. Victoria heard about Velocity Maritime Solutions through her network. She called me for the first time in 4 months. You're consulting now? She sounded confused more than angry. I thought you were just trading. I do both, I said. Trading funds the consulting work. Consulting provides stable returns for Pacific Northwest Holdings. You're working directly with Preston Vale. It wasn't a question. He's been a good mentor. She was quiet for a moment. Marcus, I don't understand what happened to you. 3 months ago you were nobody. Now you're managing millions of dollars and running a consulting firm. It doesn't make sense. I was always capable, Victoria. You just never looked. That's not fair. Isn't it? I kept my voice level. You spend our entire lives telling me I'd never amount to anything. You blocked me from Dad's trust because you genuinely believed I was incompetent. You never asked what I was working on. You never asked why I left school or what I'd been doing for 8 years. You were working tech support. I was building something. Every night after work, I was learning, coding, testing. You assumed I was wasting my life because I wasn't following your path. She hung up. 6 months after I started managing Preston's money, the numbers spoke for themselves. The $5 million had grown to $6,800,000. That was a 36% return, more than double what I'd promised. Preston called me into his office. "You hit your targets," he said simply. "The board is approving the expansion to $20 million. But I want to discuss something else." He pulled out a folder and slid it across his desk. It was a financial prospectus for Pacific Northwest Holdings itself. "I'm 64 years old," Preston said. "I've been running this fund for 3 decades. I'm tired, Marcus. I want to retire, maybe do some sailing, spend time with my grandkids. But I can't leave this fund to just anyone." I stared at the folder, not understanding where this was going. "I've been looking for a successor for 5 years. Everyone I interview is either too cautious or too reckless, too traditional or too radical." He leaned back in his chair. "Your father was the perfect balance. He took risks, but calculated ones. He understood that business is about people, not just numbers. You're the first person I've met who reminds me of him." "What are you saying?" "I'm saying I want you to buy Pacific Northwest Holdings." The price was staggering. $40 million for full ownership of the fund and all its assets. I had nowhere near that kind of money. My net worth was maybe $2 million at this point, including my trust distributions and trading profits. "I can't afford that," I said. Preston smiled. "Not yet, but here's my proposal. You continue running your trading operation and Velocity Maritime. I'll mentor you for 2 years, teach you everything about fund management, introduce you to every relationship I've built. During that time, you'll earn management fees from the fund, and your trading profits continue growing. And after 2 years, if you've proven yourself, I'll structure a leveraged buyout. You'll use the fund's own assets as collateral to purchase the fund itself. It's how I bought it 30 years ago. The banks will lend against the stable cash flows." He extended his hand. 2 years, Marcus. Show me you can do this, and I'll give you the empire." I shook his hand. Victoria found out within a week. The finance world talks, especially in Seattle. She showed up at my apartment unannounced, something she'd never done before. "Is it true?" she demanded when I opened the door. "Preston Vale is grooming you to take over Pacific Northwest Holdings?" "Yes." She looked like I'd slapped her. "That's the fund that manages our trust. You're going to control our family's money." "Eventually, yes." Victoria pushed past me into my apartment. She looked around at my setup, the multiple monitors, the trading dashboard, the logistics software on my second screen. "This is insane," she said, but her voice had lost its edge. She sounded tired. "How did this happen? How did you go from tech support to this in less than a year?" "I told you. I was always working on something. You just never believed in me." She sat down on my couch, which surprised me. Victoria never sat down uninvited. She always stood, always maintained the power position. "Dad believed in you," she said quietly. "At the end, before he died, he talked about you more than me. He said you reminded him of himself at your age. I thought he was being sentimental, making excuses for your failures. He saw something you didn't. He saw something I wouldn't," she corrected. "I was so busy being successful that I couldn't imagine success looking different than mine. Harvard, corporate finance, the traditional path. You built something completely different." She looked up at me, and for the first time in my life, I saw uncertainty in her eyes. "When you take over the fund, what happens to my distributions?" "Nothing," I said. "You're still a beneficiary. The trust bylaws don't change. But you'll control them." "Yes." The 2 years passed faster than I expected. Preston taught me everything he knew about fund management, relationship building, and the shipping industry. My trading operation continued generating consistent returns. Velocity Maritime Solutions grew to a team of 12 people consulting with 15 different shipping companies. My net worth crossed $10 million, then $15 million. The leverage buyout Preston had structured required me to put up $12 million of my own capital, with the rest financed through loans secured against the fund's assets. On my 34th birthday, I signed the papers. Pacific Northwest Holdings was mine. $2 billion in assets under management, including the trust fund that paid distributions to me and Victoria. The Seattle Business Press covered the story. Tech support worker becomes fund manager, read one headline. Diego Rodriguez's son completes circle, read another. Victoria called me the day the announcement went public. Congratulations, she said. She sounded sincere. Thank you. I owe you an apology. A real one, not the corporate kind. I was wrong about you. I was cruel. I blocked you from the trust because I genuinely believed you'd waste the money. I was protecting Dad's legacy from what I thought was your incompetence. I know, I said. I've been thinking about what you said, about how I never asked what you were working on. I just assumed. 6 months after I took over Pacific Northwest Holdings, I restructured the trust bylaws. I added provisions for education funding, startup capital for family members pursuing business ventures, and charitable distributions. Victoria supported every change. We had dinner together last week, the first voluntary family meal we'd shared in years. She asked about my work. Actually listened. She told me about a new investment strategy she was developing. I gave her feedback. Real feedback, not the dismissive comments we traded for decades. You know what's funny, she said over dessert. Dad always said the family business was about moving things from one place to another. Cargo, goods, products. But what you did was move yourself, from tech support to fund manager. That's the biggest logistics challenge of all. I smiled. I had good training. Dad taught me that every journey starts with knowing where you need to go. And I taught you how to fight, she added. You wouldn't have pushed this hard if I hadn't blocked you from the trust. She wasn't wrong. The anger, the humiliation, the determination to prove her wrong had fueled everything. I'd turned spite into strategy, resentment into returns. So thank you, I said. Don't push it. But she was smiling. I drove home that night thinking about my father. He built an empire from nothing, betting on his own abilities when nobody else would. I'd done the same thing, just with different tools. The shipping containers were replaced by algorithms, but the principle was identical: move value from where it's underutilized to where it's needed most. Victoria told me I'd never amount to anything. She blocked me from the family trust because she thought I was incompetent. Now I controlled the fund that paid her distributions. I could cut her off completely if I wanted to, but I wouldn't, because this was never about revenge. It was about proving that success isn't one path. It's not Harvard and corner offices and Chanel suits. Sometimes success is a guy in a studio apartment drinking bad coffee at 4 a.m., building something nobody else can see yet. I bought the company that funded the trust. But more importantly, I bought my own future. Nobody could take that away. Please do well to follow me, because I have more to tell you. Revengehood is saying thank you.